Redfin's stated mission is to fundamentally change how real estate is purchased in America. And in their 22 or so years, the market has not only become worse for homeowners, potential buyers, it is in part due to their disruption, their successful disruption of the market. When companies like Redfin say they want to disrupt the market, most typically, and in this case, it means they want to destroy small businesses that built this country and replace them with these faceless, monstrous corporations that serve the interests of Wall Street and other international investors to the detriment of American society. In the real estate industry, this has resulted in reduced home affordability, unfair destruction of competition, all while Redfin pays zero in federal taxes. They have for the last years that I can see records for, and continues to use its power to destroy competition one agent at a time, while at the same time advancing a political agenda rather than focusing on helping its customers. So while in the past I've taken a look at Redfin's specific strategies, today we're taking more of a 30,000 foot view and see where Redfin is as a company and why they are really a company that should be shunned and discouraged and avoided by those of us who are concerned about the long-term health of our real estate market. I'm Bill Gross. This is my weekly real estate market update. I do this every week, both in email format and video. It's on YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook. Love to have you subscribe, like it, give me content, give me comments or questions so I can help in any way. Now, before we get into specifically Redfin, let's take a look at the market overall to set the picture of where we are in terms of the market today. And in any economy, there's two parts. There's the supply and demand. Demand is really affected by interest rates and the buyers on the real estate market. And you can see rates had jumped up last week to about 7.25%, and they've inched back down, closing the week at about 7.07%, just about a little less than 0.25% drop in rates, back to about where they've been in the middle point over the last year. Now, it looked like they were going to be going up for a while. Hard to say where the market's going to go, but at least right now we don't have that continued bump increase. And at this market rate we have now, rates are still sufficient to drive enough buyer interest for the real estate that we have available for sale. We have less homes for sale, particularly in Los Angeles, because we just burned down about 10,000 of it. That's a whole nother story. Okay, so overall, the market looks to be good for demand. How about the supply side? Supply side is determined by inventory of homes for sale. And here on Redfin, I use them because it's free. I figure why not use it since they're abusing our market. You can see that inventory has dropped tremendously, but this is seasonal. This happens every year around this time, if you notice. More importantly, though, this number is below any other year on record since other than before the pandemic. I'm sorry, other than during pandemic years. So we're still in this adjustment to the global pandemic in the real estate market. We've not recovered. You can see in years past, we had more inventory for sale, and during the pandemic, we had a lot less, and that has still continued to be, though that number is softening a bit. Now, here's the key part. As long as there's no excess inventory, prices can't go down. Prices only go down when sellers compete with the market and lower the price, and there's more sellers than buyers. That causes the price to go down. Now, how about the specific market in Los Angeles? Well, overall, the market statistics based on the last week's data updated continues to be a 36, which is a seller's market. Of course, sellers of houses now are available for lease, more demand than ever for those. For homes that didn't burn down in the west side of LA and Palisades, probably a little more demand for those as people need to relocate for the next few years. We'll see how the effect of fires affects the market going forward. But for now, I use Altos Research, a great tool. They rank our market as a 36, which is a slight seller's market. We've been in this range now continuously for months. I don't really see that changing overall. So we are in a slight seller's market, continue to have been for a while. It looks like that's where we're going to stay. Okay, if you follow me at all, you know I call out Redfin and the practice regularly, and their influence isn't just in the sales and activity they do, their influence is on the industry overall, their practices, the way they do business, how they do advertising, how their CEO is always on the national news promoting their program to the detriment of everybody else. And one of the things I want to do is take a look at their actual mission statement, see how they live up to it. So let's take a look at that. Go to Redfin's website, and here's their values and their mission. One of the things they say is, I love this one. Let's see, where are we here? Profits funded program. Anyone deciding how we spend our time and money has to know which decisions are profitable. Profits sustain the growth of our company or keep our mission. Now, I don't know. That seems to me to be factually untrue. What profits do they have? Well, certainly no profits that trigger actual federal taxes. This is Yahoo Finance on their taxes, and you can see the last few years their net income from continuing operations has been major losses. They have no tax rate calculation because they're not paying federal taxes. So while the mission statement says they're funding their activities with profits, that doesn't seem to be the case. And more importantly, the institutions that hold their stock don't seem to care. Now, as a real estate agent, I need to make profits to pay the bills. But what Redfin seeks to do is to displace, i.e. replace real estate agents with their corporate monstrosity. And that becomes an organization that doesn't need to make at least profits on paper that require tax to be paid to fund our government. Another thing, we'll just continue with that thought for just a second now. And let's take a look at, who really is Redfin, who owns them. So for example, oops, I lost my spot there. This goes here. Major shareholders, Redfin, 4.29% are held by all insiders. That would mean management. That would mean agents of the company, employees of the company. Less than 5% are owned by the actual company. 66% by institutions. And you can see the top shareholders are Vanguard, BlackRock. These are the forces of evil that fund corporate Wall Street interests at the expense of the average American. Now, if you think that's good, if you think that America should be a global entity and we should disassociate America and focus on what's best for one world economy and the Davos group, then this is good news for you, right? These are people who go to Davos and talk about controlling the world. As an American, I was an American entrepreneur, and here's the other part. When you have a company head like Elon Musk, like Jeff Bezos, like CEOs, they're held accountable for companies. But here, nobody's really held accountable because nobody really knows who owns the stock. It's just these faceless Wall Street organizations. Now, also, if you go back to their mission statement, which is nonsense, this is a culture of dissent. It's going to identify a problem it must talk about, but also it's efficient. Everyone can be a leader proposing enacting solutions after we disagree. Well, it's really interesting. If you really look at Redfin, I saw just a shocking number when I researched them. Of Redfin's employees, I'm scrolling down here. I'm sorry about that. I thought I had this ready to go. 98.5% are registered Democrats. 1.5% Republican. Now, look, if you're a Democrat and you support the Democrat agenda, maybe it's a good thing that your numbers reflect the population or a little bit more. 98.5% is almost unachievable unless that's your corporate requirement or mission. And 1.5% maybe, missed. Maybe you missed a few people's registrations. Maybe you hired them accidentally. Maybe they changed from the last election and you haven't fired them yet. I ran the numbers through AI and I said in a sample size of 80% red, 80% blue balls, in a population of 80% blue balls, what's the odds of picking a random sample at 98.5%? It's impossible. It's infinitesimal. It would never happen. It's less than the number of atoms on the earth. So what we know is that whoever runs HR at Redfin specifically either refuses to hire anybody who's not a Democrat, or they discover people are registered Republican and make them change registration or fire them. Now, look, again, I'm not saying Republicans good, Democrats bad. I'm saying any organization that has that policy on either side is bad. We should be hiring people and firing people based on their political affiliation, unless you're a political organization. Obviously, the Democrat Party should have all Democrats. Republican Party should have all Republicans at their headquarters. But what this tells you is Redfin is basically just an arm of the Democratic Party, and we're not surprised when we look a little deeper into their content. So, for example, you go to their website. Here's Redfin News. Number one item on the far left is always the most valuable real estate space, housing market. Number two, the rental market. Now, that's odd. If we go back to Redfin's mission statement, it was that they were changing the way people buy houses. That was their goal. They're trying to bet on fundamental improvements on how people find their next home. And the whole point of it was, theoretically, they're going to change the way people buy houses, but yet it appears as though they're as focused on the rental market, the housing market, and not buy or sell, which is up here. the rental market, number 2. Number 3 is equality and policy. Now, again, equality and policy are germane to any company, but that's a priority. That's ahead of their information for their data center from the CEO, company news, and contact is equality and policy. Obviously, for the Democrat Party or the Republican Party, that would be a priority. But for a company, that seems like an odd priority. It seems to me that's a little emphasizing something that's not so important to your customers or important to your owners if your owners are regular Americans. But obviously, if you're part of a political activist group or a globalist activist group, they become very important to you. Another area where Redfin, like many companies, really undermines Americans is the H-1B visa program. And you go and you can research this program and you see companies, H-1B visas are visas where they hire people saying they can't find them in America. They want to bring them in legally because these jobs are so scarce. But you take a look at the jobs that Redfin's hiring for, and specifically, I think you'll find, where am I here? I got the wrong spot. There we go. These are all just tech jobs. These are the kind of jobs that when I meet people who have tech jobs, these are jobs they have. These are jobs that rarely Americans have. Now, it's true that Redfin might have to pay more to get one of these employees and scoop them up from Google or Amazon or Zillow or some other company. That's called competition. But rather than pay an American their fair share, they've misused the H-1B visa program, in my perspective, to outsource the jobs that they rather not pay to Americans. And this way they can save money and pay Americans less. There's an American who didn't get this job, software developer, average salary $154,000. That guy didn't get the job. Maybe we had to pay him $170 or $180. But instead, Redfin hires somebody from India or China, and they come here and benefit from that, which obviously means now we're training people in other countries. We're not building a long-term population of these people here. We're supporting their schools, not our schools. There was a time when companies that needed engineering students would finance schools or positions at colleges or programs as a way to help them recruit. Now, companies like Redfin don't need to do that. They can just hire people directly from India and China. And in fact, they sponsor programs and positions and schools in India and China to get the tech people they want instead of America. And so we look at these jobs not coming to Americans. Redfin's the reason why. And again, remember, they're a political activist organization that's full support of the Democratic Party that's really been protection for them to do this. So they're not paying taxes. What are they doing? They're advancing the agenda of their political patrons. And that means that explains why they focus on making people okay with renting property instead of feeding the desire to own a house. And that's why it's okay for them to hire people from other countries, because those people come here and new immigrants tend to vote Democrat. And that's just all part of the program. So overall, obviously, Redfin at a global level is not a good corporate partner in America. They're not a good corporate citizen. In my experience, when I first grew up, the first realtor I met was Chuck Stevens in the city of La Habra. And I know that he owned Century 21 Chuck Stevens. He was the mayor of La Habra. It is common and was common for real estate agents to involve in local organizations, Kiwanis, Lions Club, helping local communities, presidents of churches, people, and they would use their information and their networking abilities, organizations to help them build their business. But if that business is replaced by big corporations like Redfin, who are owned by foreign and Wall Street institutions, and at the same time promoting anti-American policies like hiring students from abroad and focusing on political action rather than helping people, obviously doesn't set well. And more importantly, in the long run, they're not paying federal taxes like the realtors that they're replacing. So overall, Redfin is really a force of evil, I think, in a real estate market. And while I use their service because it doesn't cost me anything, I think we need to understand that they should be used, I don't think, as a resource by agents paying for their leads or taking referrals from them, or by customers. I just don't think in the long run they're going to serve your interests. Okay, in the news, I did want to note one article, I think a little depressing article, another positive article. So you can't go too far without hearing about the fires. I'm going to give you maybe a piece of information you haven't heard before. So we still are a long ways away from digging out how much damage was done. Is it 150 billion? Is it 250 billion dollars worth of homes that have been destroyed and property destroyed in Southern California? We don't know yet. But here's what I do know. What I do know is that people are not going to get insurance claims to cover all their losses. Now, I know that because as a real estate agent, insurance claims rarely cover the entire loss, right? You're only going to get claims for things you can document. Many people don't document all their personal property. And properties that burn down, oftentimes you don't have replacement coverage. So what will happen is you have a house, a 2,000 square foot house. It might cost you, I don't know, $300 a square foot to rebuild it, or $600,000. But the insurance company say, but your house was built in 1980, so you get half of that because your house was a depreciated house. It wasn't worth a new house. Another thing I know is it's going to take a long time to get the insurance claims. It's going to take a long time to get plans to rebuild the house. And so people are going to be out months and months, if not years, of rental income and other expenses. So with insurance companies, I know can't cover all those expenses. The worst tragedy, I wrote about this a couple weeks ago, is in California. We basically chased out the good insurance companies. We're trying to force those companies to write some policies. And how do we do that? We did that by making them write a certain percentage of their policies in high-risk areas. But then we use the state FAIR plan, FAR, as a way to take the highest risk properties. And so now you have our insurance commissioner who's never wrote an insurance policy in his life, never worked for an insurance company. He's just a lifetime politician running the largest growing insurance company in California, FAIR Plan, with over $450 billion in force. In some areas like Malibu, like the Palisades, they wrote 10 or 15% of the insurance in the last year. And come to find out in the news, we discover they have only $700 million of cash on hand to pay claims. Now think about that. If you have $1 million claim and you have 700 houses, that's all the money they have. If you have $2 million claims, because their house has been burned down, worth more, 350 claims will wipe out all that money. So what we know is they don't have enough money to pay all the claims. What does that mean? They're going to find creative ways to point fingers or blame somebody. I think the game plan all along was to hope the federal government would just bail out the failed insurance policy program. And it may, I don't have a crystal ball, but it doesn't look likely to me. So I did a video earlier this week with a friend of mine who's an attorney, and I really recommend that if you have an insurance claim, get on it right away. Maybe get with an attorney right now to review your policy. Get your paperwork put together at the earliest moment. Like a lot of things in life, the people at the front line will get some money before they run out. So I really urge people to. But I think the insurance crisis is going to make the mismanagement of the fire response pale in comparison. I think the insurance is set up for that big of a disaster. Now, let me give you a positive article to read. I always have a lot of negative ones. I just had a great article in Kiplinger, and I link it in my email. 7 estate planning best practices. I thought this was great. I thought they did a really good job. They have all these resources you can click on as well right on their page. An estate planning worksheet, an estate executor checklist, top types of trusts, a downloadable will that you might want to use, estate planning guide for the year. I wouldn't use Jim Cramer's top Vanguard funds. I wouldn't use Vanguard funds. I wouldn't use Jim Cramer. RMD is remaining something distribution. It's when you have an IRA by age and you have to start advancing on it. And then other estate planning forms. Great resources, but this was great. 7 best estate planning practices. And now I can on each one of these. These have backups for different roles, communicate with your loved ones, check your state laws, remember your pets if you have pets, share with your healthcare providers, very important. Don't forget to put the assets in the trust. I'm a realtor, that's what we deal with all the time. And review and update regularly. Great advice. I could talk about an hour on each one of those. But I want to urge you to review this article, review your estate plan. Is it up to date? Talk to your attorney. If you don't have one, call me. I work with attorneys across the country. I've interviewed probably 200 estate planning attorneys and have a podcast, Estate Planning Weekly. We're getting ready to launch formally. So if I can help with that, let me know. But I think it's a great article, covers a lot of material, and has some great resources that they can help you be more effective in avoiding probate and properly planning for distribution of your assets or protecting you in case of health issues. Okay, so what do you think? Am I too hard on Redfin? Yes or no? Comments, love to see them. For more information, call me, text me, email me. I'm at Bill Gross Probate or BillGrossProbate.com is my website. As always, make today your best day ever.